What if the secrets of true intelligence aren't found in what we know, but in how we learn? Every day, millions of humans transform their fears into strengths and their confusion into understanding. In today's episode, we're going to understand this ability to turn limitation into capability. This ability may hold the key to creating artificial general intelligence. Our journey into artificial intelligence has brought us to a crucial realization that the difference between narrow and general intelligence isn't just about accumulating more facts or processing power. It's about understanding the deep architecture of how minds, both human and artificial, transform themselves. This transformation begins with something remarkably simple: the ability to recognize when we don't know something, and the drive to do something about it.
Like the water's surface, our thinking reflects the world around us. Concealed beneath this surface lies a vast ocean of complexity. Layers of intuition, emotion, and hidden drives shape how we think, how we learn, and how we perceive. As we strive to create truly intelligent machines, we must dive deep into these unexplored depths of the mind. I'm Evan Goldstein, and this is Deep Thoughts, an exploration of human cognition and the future of artificial general intelligence.
In 1896, a 16-year-old boy was daydreaming, which was something he did often, much to the frustration of his teachers. But this particular daydream would change the course of science forever. Young Albert Einstein was imagining what it would be like to ride on a beam of light. If I pursued a beam of light with the velocity of light, he wondered, I should observe such a beam as a spatially oscillatory electromagnetic field at rest. Basically riding on the wave, it should look like a pattern of ripples stationarily. This seemingly simple question led to a profound realization. If he could catch up to light, he could see a frozen wave, something that Maxwell's equations of electromagnetism suggested was impossible. The contradiction nagged at him, creating that distinctive cognitive tension that we've been discussing. For 10 years, this question lingered in his mind, driving him to explore the nature of light and time and space.
He said.
Now, what's remarkable is that Einstein didn't resolve this tension through elaborate experiments in a well-funded laboratory. He didn't crunch numbers on supercomputers or collect vast amounts of data. Instead, he transformed his limitation, his inability to physically chase a beam of light, into one of history's most profound discoveries, the theory of special relativity.
Yep.
Throughout thought experiments that were driven by his curiosity and his discomfort with the contradiction, Einstein revolutionized our understanding of the universe. This transformation from puzzlement to paradigm didn't happen just because Einstein had memorized more physics facts than his contemporaries. It happened because he developed a different relationship with what he didn't know. His confusion wasn't something to be avoided. It was a compass pointing toward a deeper understanding. The questions that made him uncomfortable became the very questions that drove him to new discoveries. In today's episode, we're diving into how all our skills and abilities mix together to form inspiration. First, I'll break down how we can create two main types of thoughts: knowledge and intentions.
Yeah.
When I say knowledge, I'm talking about thoughts that show us what's really happening in the world around us. Let's talk about knowledge for a moment. So knowledge comes in different forms. For example, knowing that Tokyo is the capital of Japan is one type of knowledge. So is remembering what movie you just watched last weekend. Even though one is a general fact and the other is specific to your personal experience, both reflect reality, how things actually are and work. Some knowledge is powerful because it helps us predict what will happen next. Think about everyday examples, like flipping a light switch will illuminate a room. Or consider scientific knowledge. When you drop a rock into water, you know that it will create ripples across the surface. Even basic geometry, like knowing that a rectangle has four sides, lets you predict outcomes. But then there are our personal memories, like the unexpected compliment that you receive from a stranger at a coffee shop. These expressions probably won't repeat in exactly the same way again. But they're still knowledge, but they're one-time snapshots of your life rather than predictive patterns. The line between personal memories and general knowledge isn't as sharp as you might think. What really separates them is consistency, how often the pattern repeats. Let me show you what I mean. Say you notice your friend wearing headphones during study hall one day. That's just a single memory with no predictive value. But if you notice them wearing headphones every single day during study hall for a week straight, that observation translates into knowledge. My friend always wears headphones when studying. Now, you can actually predict their future behavior based on this knowledge and pattern identification. Both memories and knowledge work the same way in your brain. Something you experience triggers a useful related thought. For example, Japan plus capital leads to Tokyo. Light switch plus flip results in the room brightening. Me plus weekend plus movie brings up the Avengers. In each case, your brain connects the dots to produce something meaningful and useful. The only difference is how reliable those connections are for predicting what comes next. Just to clarify, these are all specific memories, not yet turned into big ideas or concepts. They're just bits of reality that the world has shown you. You could think of them as truths, but in a pretty casual way. So, how do you actually pick these up? Well, one of the key things to knowing the truth is that you need to be curious about it. Truth tends to pop up when you ask the right kind of question. And then you get an answer that actually fits what you were asking. Answer might include things like computer screen, coffee mug, or bookshelf, but you wouldn't say that the theory of relativity is a thing, is an answer, or how to change a tire or yesterday's conversation with your best friend. Why not? Because those thoughts don't actually answer the question about what's physically present around you. So, how does our brain decide what counts as a relevant answer to any question? This is actually a fascinating process that happens automatically without you even realizing it. Your mind is filtering through countless possible responses, and it selects only those that fit the specific context of what was asked. It's like having an invisible sorting system that keeps your thoughts organized and your response is appropriate to the situation at hand. Here's the thing about brain and identification. You can only recognize something if you already have some mental template for it. You need prior experience or knowledge to make sense of what it is that you're seeing. Let me describe something for you. Imagine I tell you about an instrument from Southeast Asia. It has a wooden body shaped like a boat with curved sides. It has multiple strings that run across its length, and it's played by plucking these strings with your fingers. You play it while the instrument is resting in your lap. What is this instrument? You probably don't know right away, but your brain is already working to connect it to things that you do recognize. Maybe you're thinking it sounds like a harp, or possibly a guitar, or even some kind of zither. This mental searching happens because your brain doesn't like unidentified objects. They represent a kind of problem. Questions without answers create a small but noticeable tension in your mind. You want to resolve this tension by finding a satisfying answer. Now let me tell you that the instrument is called kasapai, traditionally played in Indonesian music. It produces a gentle, rippling sound that often accompanies singers on other instruments in an ensemble. There. You now have an answer. Even if you've never heard one played, there's enough information in what I've said for you to accept and store this new knowledge. What was it that made this explanation satisfying, at least satisfying enough for your brain to accept? The word instrument was crucial. If instead I told you that a kakape was a type of spicy soup or a ceremonial dance, you probably wouldn't have accepted that explanation, because it contradicts the description I gave you about strings and plucking. Every thought is created by a skill. The skill you're using here is your ability to identify something as a musical instrument. Every thought you have is created by a mental skill. The skill used here was your ability to identify musical instruments. Hearing about strings being plucked combined with learning, it's called an instrument created an acceptable solution to your original question. In fact, you probably already placed it in the instrument category before I even told you what it was called. So, in this dance between the familiar and the unknown lies one of the most fascinating aspects of intelligence. Our minds are like master sculptors, continuously shaping raw experience into meaningful patterns. But these patterns aren't simply imposed from outside, they grow organically from our previous understanding. And each new piece of knowledge finds its place in relation to what we already know. Think of how a young child first begins to make sense of the world. They don't simply absorb information passively. They actively construct understanding by building upon what they already know. When they encounter something new, they reach out. When they encounter something new, they reach out with their existing knowledge, trying to find hooks and handholds in the unfamiliar terrain. This process of recognition and categorization isn't just about storing facts. It's about creating a living framework that can grow and adapt. This insight has profound implications for our pursuit of artificial general intelligence. Current AI systems excel at processing vast amounts of information, but they typically lack this dynamic framework that allows humans to contextualize new information within existing understanding. To truly create general artificial intelligence, we must develop systems that don't just accumulate knowledge, but that actively restructure and reprioritize it based on usefulness and context. When an AI can recognize not just a pattern in the data, but patterns in its own learning process, when it can identify gaps in its own understanding and autonomously develop skills to address them, then we will have taken a crucial step towards machines that truly learn as we do. This self-reflective capability, this meta-awareness of knowledge and intention, may be what separates narrow, domain-specific AI from systems with genuine general intelligence. Our minds are like master sculptors, continuously shaping raw experience into meaningful patterns. But these patterns aren't just imposed from outside, they grow organically from our previous understanding. Each new piece of knowledge finding its place in relation to what we already know. Our ability to understand new things isn't limited by our processing power or by our memory capacity. It's shaped by the mental tools that we've already developed. Have you ever wondered why you can spot things like musical instruments or food or even more specific things? To get to the bottom of that, you have to think about what's driving your need to label objects. I'm talking about the main motivation that fuels your urge to figure out what you don't know and also what you consider to be a good answer. In this case, the main motivation is your instinct to avoid getting hurt. I'm not talking about just pain. It's more about steering clear of things that you think might lead to discomfort or harm. This kind of aversion kicked in pretty early in your life. When you were a kid, you started to shy away from things that were unfamiliar because they could be dangerous. You might feel this urge pop up when someone asks you, "Hey, what's that?" Usually, not always, questions that start with what can make you feel that identification stress. Now, since language is extremely flexible, you can't just pin this stress on these skills down to specific words or phrases. You learn through your experiences to link different word combinations, sights, and sounds to your aversions. Figuring out the unknown is just one of the many reasons that you seek knowledge. There are other reasons too, like wanting to impress others or a genuine desire to help and teach people. Given all of this, intents are comparatively easy to understand. By intent, I mean a thought that visualizes preferred outcome. Your travel plans for next summer are intent. Your mental recipe for tonight's dinner is an intent. How will you decorate your living room after the renovation is complete is an intent. In each case, as above, experiencing a situation causes you to imagine some other thought, which is your goal. A clear example of intent is the one that you have when planning out a garden before you plant it. You look at the empty soil and in your mind, you envision the layout of the intended space, what to grow and flowering vines along a trellis, vegetables in neat rows, herbs clustered near the kitchen door. As you begin preparing the soil, you then imagine more details, such as the height of plants, seasonal blooming patterns, and where pathways should wind between them. Each of these visualizations is a minor intention of its own. In each case, you first cultivate something in your mind, then you work to bring it to life in the physical world. Now, let's look at details of generating intentions, as seen when you play a game of chess. Imagine sitting across from an opponent at a chessboard. As you stare at the pieces, your mind rapidly generates a series of intents, potential futures that might unfold across the 64 squares. You see your knight capturing their pawn, then you visualize their bishop taking your knight in response. This mental projection continues with each move and countermove, representing an intent that may or may not materialize. What is it that drives this cascade of intentions? Initially, your overarching goal might be to win the game, but this broad intention quickly branches into more specific ones. When you spot your opponent's queen threatening your rook, you form an immediate intent to protect or move it to safety. If you notice your bishop and queen aligned toward their king, you form an intent to create a checkmate opportunity. The fascinating aspect is how these intentions emerge and evolve with each glance at the board. You don't consciously decide to form these intents. They arise naturally as solutions to the problems that you perceive. Your mind constantly shifts between defense against threats and pursuit of advantageous positions, with each intent serving as a stepping stone toward your larger goal. Even a seemingly simple move, like advancing a pawn, reveals the intricate structure of intentions. You might advance it to control a central square, to develop a piece behind it, to threaten an opponent's piece, or to create a future passed pawn. Each possibility represents a different intent, a different future that you're trying to bring into reality. In chess, as in life, your intents aren't merely abstractions. They're the mental scaffolding that guides your actions, the bridge between thought and the world that you're trying to shape. Up until now, we dove into two ways of using your thoughts: building knowledge and setting intentions. When we talk about knowledge, we're talking about what the world tells us is real, whether it's memories or predictions or facts. They all show us how things were in the past or how they might be in the future. On the flip side, intents are all about what you want to happen. Think of plans, strategies, designs, dreams, even your wildest fantasies. They all fall under the umbrella of intents. How do our brains distinguish between these two? Well, based on what we just talked about, it seems like both get shaped in the same way, using skills to solve problems in our mind. Guess what? They aren't actually all that different. Even though intents and knowledge might seem like two separate things, your brain treats them as one and the same. So let's break this down with an example to clarify what I'm saying. When you see a musical instrument like a piano, you might think of the word piano. This seems as much a statement of truth as any. Surely the English word for an instrument falls into the category of knowledge. But English is an arbitrary language to choose. You could also think of the Italian pianoforte or the Russian pianino for this instrument. Nothing in the piano itself inherently implies the word piano. The word you choose for this instrument is based on what your society agreed to call it. If tomorrow your society all decided to call it a key tapper, that would become the new truth. So why do you think of the word piano when you see one? Well, if you want to tell an English speaker what you saw, you would use that word. When you're having a conversation about this instrument, it's useful to have the word pop into your head immediately on seeing it. That way, you can say out loud what's in your head instead of searching around for the right words. The word is your intention as to what you will say. Let's look at another example. Imagine a friend of yours asked you to translate the Italian phrase "la vita è bella" into English. She then steps away to take a phone call. You consider the words and you arrive at the translation, "life is beautiful." You hold this answer in your mind to share when she returns. You have an intent for what you will tell her, but it's also a linguistic truth. Our minds are problem-solving machines. Every thought that persists in your consciousness serves a purpose. It resolves some tension or addresses some need. Learn English. Your brain doesn't randomly store information. It selectively retains what proves useful in navigating your world. When you remember where you parked your car or the birthday of someone you care about, it's because these facts solve practical or emotional problems. Even seemingly trivial memories remain with you because at some level, they help you to avoid an aversion or to achieve a desired outcome. The facts you remember are those that you've demonstrated their usefulness in your lived experience. Now, this is true even of your own personal memories. Imagine you went to a concert to hear a specific song for your partner. Listening through the entire show, you realize that the band never played it. You remember this omission, and you mention it when you return home. And in this way, the unplayed song is truth. But if you had gone to the concert simply to enjoy the atmosphere, you might not have that memory, that missed song. You only created it because you have to explain to your partner why you couldn't record their favorite song for them. It's what you intended to tell them. You probably don't think about why you remember stuff or what it's good for. While it might seem like you're just hanging on to random facts, there's way too much going on in the world for you to keep track of everything. You might remember a hilarious moment because it makes for a great story. Or you could hold on to some deep quotes about life lessons because revisiting them later can boost your mood or can help you succeed. Now that's how you plan on keeping yourself happy. Every little tidbit, comes with some kind of purpose. Even things like the structure of an atom or how many planets are out there are backed by what you want to share with others, which is why you think of them. You've probably heard people say that they believe and that people believe whatever they want to believe. A friendlier way to say that is people believe what is helpful for them to believe, or they remember what is useful for them to know. Putting it like that makes it sound more sensible. After all, why would you do anything else? It's important to understand that having an intent does not obligate you to act on. Many of our intentions exist purely as mental projections, desired outcomes that may never materialize in the physical world. When you daydream about visiting Paris someday, that's an intent without an immediate action. When you imagine how a conversation with your boss might go before it happens, You're creating an intent that serves as mental preparation, not a commitment. These intentions still serve crucial purposes. They allow us to rehearse potential futures, to evaluate possible outcomes, prepare emotionally for what might come. Consider how you might visualize several different career paths before choosing one to pursue. How you might entertain multiple design ideas for your home before implementing any changes. These mental scenarios help us navigate complex decisions and prepare for uncertainty. Even intentions that we never act upon shape our understanding of the world. The capacity to generate and maintain intentions without immediate actions is, in fact, one of the hallmarks of advanced cognition. The ability to separate thought from immediate reaction, to consider multiple paths forward, and to choose deliberately among them. This capacity to choose and to delay or entirely prevent hypothetical intention is what allows us to engage in long-term planning, in artistic creation, and ethical deliberation. Current AI systems excel at pattern recognition and can process vast quantities of information, but they lack something that's fundamental that you possess: the emotional relationship with knowledge itself. When you encounter something that you don't understand, whether it's an unfamiliar instrument like the Hakopi that we discussed earlier, or a complex chess position, you feel a particular kind of tension. Unknown creates discomfort that motivates you to resolve. And when you finally grasp a difficult concept or master a new skill, you experience genuine satisfaction, a release of cognitive tension. This emotional dimension to learning isn't just a side effect of human consciousness. It's the engine that drives intelligence forward. Your brain doesn't accumulate knowledge for its own sake. It preserves and prioritizes information that serves your needs, whether those are physical survival, social connection, or personal fulfillment. Every act that you remember and every skill that you develop exists because it helps you avoid some aversion or achieve some desired outcome. Consider Einstein again. Decades after his youthful thought experiment about chasing light, by 1935, quantum mechanics had become the dominant framework in physics. Yet Einstein famously protested to Niels Bohr, "God doesn't play dice with the universe." His resistance wasn't purely logical or mathematical. It was emotional and philosophical. He had developed deep intuition about how the universe should work, a conviction that nature must be elegant and deterministic at its core. Now, this emotional relationship with knowledge led Einstein to spend his final decades pursuing a unified field theory that would restore determinism to quantum phenomena, a pursuit that ultimately didn't succeed. His understanding of physics wasn't just an objective collection of facts. It was a purposeful framework shaped by his deepest values and intuitions about reality. Our artificial systems, however sophisticated they may appear, lack this fundamental relationship with knowledge. Our artificial systems, however sophisticated they may appear, lack this fundamental relationship with knowledge. They can identify patterns and they can make predictions, but they do not experience the discomfort of not knowing or the satisfaction of understanding. They have no intrinsic motivation to transform confusion into clarity, to bridge gaps in their knowledge, or to develop new capabilities in response to challenges. Knowledge and intention, seemingly separate realms of thought, are actually two expressions of the same fundamental process. Natural intelligence and the artificial intelligence of the future isn't about accumulating facts or generating actions in isolation. It's about the capacity to merge knowledge and purpose into understanding. Now, this may be the key that unlocks the door to artificial general intelligence, and with it a deeper appreciation of our own remarkable minds.